Oh, wait, where'd everyone go?
Oh, I claimed host to start setting up the live stream. It like popped up a message. Did it make you not be able to see the waiting room?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't see it. Oh, wait, whatever.
All
So I'm gonna talk briefly and then turn it over to Rachel when we hit the um, class or watch party
Yeah,
slide, correct?
right. Yeah. And then it's me. Maya's going to say another word. And then just everybody, please, since we're not really having an MC, note who's after you and then pass it to them when you're
Do you
done
all
talking.
know, do you guys have access to slides? Or you just wait until you see your face and then you know?
Are you in the slide deck? Or also, it was, yeah.
I'm in it
Anybody?
right now. I'm just getting it going through to make sure it all loaded.
Is that cool with everybody to pass it to the next person? Everybody can figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right.
I am gonna quick move these slides up so I can just be done and turn it when I turn it to you, Rachel,
Okay.
it's fully turning to you. And right after you're done talking, oh, actually, I'll go back and talk about the COP quick, but I'll talk about our delegation
Oh,
instead. Yeah.
is that okay? Okay.
Yeah, that makes more sense. So after One Earth, I'll talk quick about COP and then say, and now our delegates, and then it's on to you. Sound
Okay.
good?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Should we let folks in? We've got
Yeah.
48 in the waiting room.
All right.
Sweet. Claire, do you mind? Oh no, you can't see. If I make you a co-host, can you be in charge of letting people in? Can we have more than one? Awesome. I can't do that though. Trevor, can you make her a co-host?
I'm already set.
Oh,
Oh, you are?
there's
Sweet.
OPRF. That was
Yay!
Oh, no.
Welcome
oh,
everyone.
Let me try to get them a speaker or so. Maybe we can tell her we can.
also you might need to mute Ms. Wong, but
Oh,
we're happy to see you
All
guys.
right,
we're gonna
welcome,
do it right
welcome
now.
to everyone that's coming in. If you can mute yourselves so we can, oh, it's like dead or silence all of a sudden. Welcome everyone. We're gonna get started in just a minute as we're letting people in. We're super excited to have you all joining us this morning slash afternoon slash evening, wherever you are in the world, because we've got folks literally across the world in here today. I am gonna go ahead and share my screen and get us started because I know we have a full program and a lot of sharing and interesting things to see that is not me. I'll start out by just introducing myself. My name is Kristen Poppleton. I'm the Senior Director of Programs with Climate Generation. We are an environmental nonprofit based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and have had the pleasure of partnering up with the folks from It's Our Future and Seven Generations Ahead and One Earth the last 2 or 3 years now, maybe.
Two.
2 years during our annual COP programs. And we're super excited to be able to work together to bring the voices of youth to you all, wherever you are, from Dubai. And so just to share briefly about Climate Gen, for those who aren't familiar with us, our mission is to ignite and sustain the ability of educators, youth, and communities to act on the systems perpetuating the climate crisis. This mission, I believe, is very firmly put into action through our Window into COP program, where we actually are supporting educators, youth, and communities to learn exactly about the system that is perpetuating the climate crisis live at COP, and think about ways that they can be involved with action. We hope to ignite and sustain all of you through following and learning from our group. And this is the delegation that Climate Generation has on the ground in Dubai this year. We have 2 weeks of delegates. Our first week of delegates are just kind of coming to a close, and we're lucky enough to catch Sabrina and Yvonne
Hey,
at the end of their
Kristen,
first.
sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt. No one can like see your slides.
Oh, there's no. Can Rachel, you see my slides?
Nope.
Oh,
Right,
what are you
I was just
seeing?
about to message
It's-
Trevor.
Oh, what are you
It says that
seeing?
you started screen sharing, so I think you might be sharing like a window or a tab that doesn't have the slides.
Oh my gosh. Let me try it out again. How about this? Oh, can you
Yep,
see them?
perfect.
Great. All
Thank you so
right.
much, Kristen. Sorry for the
Yeah.
interruption.
No, you should have interrupted. Thanks for interrupting. We need the slides, the picture. So this is our delegation, as I mentioned, and you'll be hearing from 2 of them. I'm gonna move. Did you see the next slide show and change?
Yep.
Great. So we're on. Just so you know, we'll be sharing in the chat. There is some opportunity to continue learning and following delegates next week as well. Learning about our second week. If you're an educator, we have a educator toolkit for bringing this into your classroom. We'll be sharing that link in the chat as well. And if you want to follow, we do have a digest that goes out every other day. We'll share that link as well for you to be able to hear from the voices of the folks we have. If you want to rename yourself and introduce yourself in the chat, that would be awesome. We'd love to know where you're coming to us from. And if you can change the way that you're seeing the screen so that you have a spotlight on the speaker who is speaking, that would be awesome, because then you'll be able to see not me while we're speaking, but the actual speaker. I'll turn it to Rachel.
Okay, yeah, and while you're changing your name, I know we have some classes and clubs and school groups joining us today, and we'd love to know who that is. So please let us know your school, grade, teacher, how many people are watching with you. We'd love to shout you out, and super excited to have you all here. And also, throughout the presentation, feel free to put questions in the chat, and we will ask them of the panelists at the end. And if your question's for a specific person, make sure you let us know. Thanks. Oh, next. Okay, yeah, so I'm Rachel Rosner. I'm the program manager of It's Our Future, which is the youth arm of 7 Generations Ahead, a 21-year-old sustainable communities nonprofit based in Oak Park and the Chicago area. And It's Our Future has the privilege of working with youth from like a dozen different high schools across the area. And we're work on, connecting youth with one another, youth from schools that may or may not have strong environmental programming, and are super happy to meet other youth who are passionate about this work, learn together, teach others, and advocate for solutions in their schools. So for example, Oak Park River Forest High School has a strong climate policy. Evanston High School is now learning from them through It's Our Future Youth and about to pass a policy themselves. We're working on climate education and more things like that you'll hear from. Youth meet via Zoom a couple times a month, and then in person 4 to 6 times a year as it stands. And then this is our 4th year bringing young people to the UN Climate Conference. So without further ado, I think I'll just share with you about One Earth Collective as well. They are partners of ours. They've helped us with many wonderful events. You'll hear from Mayana, who's very active with this organization, but they have helped support this event. So thank you so much to our friends at One Earth.
Great. Well, before we jump into our speakers, I just want to give a brief high-level overview of what the heck this is all about for those of you who don't know and are just here because you heard that someone you know is going to speak. All these folks are coming to you from a conference of the parties, a COP. And the COPs are annual conferences that have been happening for over 2 decades that bring together all of the parties, which are the countries that signed on to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. So 197, 198 maybe, I get it, it's one or somewhere around there, countries committed to doing something about climate change, reducing the greenhouse gas emissions 28 plus years ago. And ever since then, they have been meeting annually to make decisions, develop frameworks, have conversations, receive feedback from people like us. We're civil society observers. And this year, that conference is taking place in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. It's has, I believe, over 70,000 attendees. This may be the largest COP in history. And we are just really proud to be able to support folks to go there that aren't necessarily your typical policy wonk, but human beings, young people that have probably the biggest stake in the outcome of these kind of talks, and have something really important, if not the most important, to share in terms of where we should be going and what we should be doing. And with that, I will turn it over to those folks because they are the ones that we're here to hear from today. And with that, I'm going to stop talking and have y'all meet the delegates.
All right. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? Perfect. My name is Yvonne. I am a current delegate for Climate Generation at COP UAE 28 this year. I'm currently a nursing student at the University of Minnesota, which you might think like, what's the correlation? But there definitely is a correlation, especially throughout this week, I've discovered that there's a correlation between health and the environment. I started working with Climate Generation probably during senior year of high school. I was recommended by one of my friends, and I've loved it ever since. I really felt at home and at peace with the people here and my supporters and my mentors. So yeah, the correlation between health disparities in the area that I grew up in, and especially like where I go to school, is so prevalent. So I really want to bring back like more education to people that live within my community on how to live a more sustainable and environmentally conscious life, so that their family and their health and well-being are able to be, more uplifted, if that makes sense. And you can go to the next slide. So yeah, since health has been like my main, I guess, topic or focus this week, I saw that there was like this protest saying that climate change is directly a health issue, which I totally agree. And then this is just like a wheel that I found on the internet of the social determinants of health. There's so many like small factors that play into our health that I feel like go like unnoted. Like, for example, if you live in an urban city and you don't have transportation to, like a clinic or a hospital or something like that, then you're not able to get the health that you need. And there's, of course, stress, there's social support that you might not have, housing depending on you live, discrimination as well, and even just education on how the environment affects our health too. So I'm really trying to bring that piece back post-COP. And yeah, that's kind of it.
Thanks, Yvonne. Take it away, Tasha. Are you with us?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Natasha Bhatia. I'm a senior at Hinsdale Central High School. I am also at my school, I'm a member of Ecology Club, and along with Danica Sun, who's also on the It's Our Future Youth delegation, we both co-head Fridays for Future Chicago. So I see some familiar faces from the Global Climate Strike planning meetings. And then we also like we run the global climate strikes and speak at those as well. So beyond like outside of climate, I'm also part of my school's mock trial team, and I'm the president of Business Professionals of America at my school. And then a few things I've done in the past have been the Save Belleville Prairie movement. I was a part of that movement during like this last year. And so that was definitely one of the first things I was involved in when it comes to climate. And then at COP, I've been a panelist for some of the panels that I'm actually going to speak about in a few minutes. And then I've also been a moderator. And then again, I'm here with the It's Our Future Youth delegation, which is so the overall program is 7 Generations Ahead. That's the nonprofit. And then It's Our Future is the youth program. So youth advocacy in the Chicago area. And it's kind of just like a community of youth voices. So before going to COP28, we created a Google form, and we had youth from pretty much like mostly around the US, like all around the US. And then we also had a couple of responses from different places across the world. So that was really interesting to see different people's perspective on like climate, and also just about like the different issues at COP28. So one of the things that definitely came up on this form that was repeated over and over again, and in general is a very big priority for youth at the COP28 conference this year, is the fossil fuel phase out language. So one of the first things we did when we first got here on Sunday was our first day in the Blue Zone, and we went to a session by Al Gore. So Al Gore was presenting, and Al Gore explicitly said that there should be no more fossil fuels, that we need to stop the production of fossil fuels, and that we need a fossil fuel phase out. So that was really refreshing to see an adult and such a prominent individual explicitly stating that we need a fossil fuel phase out. So we also went to a panel at the China Pavilion a couple of days later, and they were also there talking about like a fossil fuel phase out, fossil fuel subsidies, and just exactly how much money the world is putting into fossil fuels, which, as you can probably guess, is quite a bit. And then overall at COP, just today, John Kerry said in a press conference that we must largely phase out fossil fuels in energy. However, as most of you may or may not know, the US hasn't explicitly like made any sort of declarations around fossil fuel phase out language. They've definitely said that there may be open to a phase down, but what activists are really pushing for at COP is a phase out, a commitment to end fossil fuels, which is obviously necessary in order for us to reach meet the goals of like 1.5 degrees and 2 degrees eventually of warming as well. So obviously, one of the issues that comes up when you think about fossil fuels is the conflict of interest with the president of COP28. So he is the chief executive of the Abu Dhabi National Oil Company as well. But then he's also in the role of the founder of the renewable energy company Masdar. So the thing about COP28 is that you see this kind of balance, along with like having 2,500 fossil fuel like lobbyists at the conference, at a climate conference. You have this like sort of interesting, very like concerning sort of balance going on between fossil fuels and trying to like engage fossil fuel companies and trying to keep fossil fuel companies alive, and also like, you know, appealing to environmental activists like, no, we're still keeping your voices alive as well, like we still want to listen to you. We agree maybe we need to get rid of some fossil fuels, just not all the fossil fuels. So you kind of see like there a lot of like the decision makers are kind of torn between like, oh, like we want to make everyone happy, but obviously that's just not possible. Like we do need like a phase out of fossil fuels, as Al Gore said that was the one way like we can actually fully like stop all of the warming and all of these effects that we're facing. So I think that's something that's definitely been interesting about the COP, is just that sort of balance. And then, yeah, so next on the form, we had a lot of like, just like comments about anxiety and climate. So we actually also had a panel about this. We had a panel on climate anxiety and apathy and activation, youth mental health in the face of the climate disaster. This was our panel. Actually, we had it today. And it was actually a really interesting conversation. We learned about solastalgia and youth mental health. And just in general, when it comes to the climate crisis, when dealing with feelings like grief, loss, like sadness, and then also like frustration and anger, and then climate guilt. So it was a really great conversation, learning about how you deal with those things by like finding a community of voices, looking at like focusing on positive news, finding people to lift you up, and then also just like directly taking action, which helps to combat all of those feelings. And then we also talked about like its relation to social media, which is obviously a very interesting conversation with social media and its like pros and cons when it comes to climate. And then the next panel we have was we had this one actually earlier on Sunday. Oh, it's on the same slide. So it was on Sunday, and it was the climate education into climate justice panel. So that one was about really like focusing on the lack of education around climate, and how climate education can give people resources, and how that education can enable them to then fight for like their what they need when it comes to things like resources around climate, like grants and everything. So really looking at like education as a form for climate justice. And then the last panel I think that we have the youth mental health panel again tomorrow, and then I'll actually be on a panel called Dear World Leaders, a message from youth. So that one will be directly to like U.S. officials like John Kerry, and then a lot of the top U.S. government officials will be in that audience. So if anyone has any sort of, and then Danica actually will be joining me for the roundtable discussion after that with some of those top officials as well. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts that they'd like us to bring up in those discussions, please feel free to share them in the chat, and we'll definitely bring those up, because we want to be representing your voices as well. So that was kind of mainly the overview of what we heard about before going to COP and how it's kind of been playing out. And then I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate the architecture here in Dubai. It's absolutely beautiful. We've seen some great, very interesting buildings. And then I'll pass it over to the next person.
Thank you, Tasha. I just want to jump in very fast to shout out Miss Stamp's 8th grade class. Thank you so much for being here, and also the folks at OPRF. Carry on, Sabrina. Thanks again, Tasha.
So sorry, y'all. Hey, everybody. My name is Sabrina Jarish. It's 9:23 in Dubai right now. I'm originally from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am currently on Anishinaabe and Muwekma land, and I got involved with Climate Generation this summer as their education support intern. Shout out Ed Team. I see some of you guys here. Love you guys. Doing wonderful work in making climate literacy more accessible, something that I'm super, super passionate about. I'm currently a junior at Stanford University studying Earth systems, which is our intersection of engineering, environmental engineering, OMG, not real engineering, engineering, environmental science, and environmental justice. Super cool. And I'm focusing on increasing the accessibility of renewable energy for low income and marginalized communities. So today was just transition day in COP28. So it was a lot of fun. But if you go to the next slide. Okay, I also did a lot of education stuff, and it was so much fun because I'm also passionate about education, because that is the biggest like way to increase accessibility of just climate change and climate justice, which is something that actually COP says is the easiest way for emergent countries to get involved in combating and mitigating the climate crisis. So some super cool things that I went to was Hillary Clinton had a panel about women and marginalized genders all over the world and talking about how we can support women in fighting the climate crisis. A lot of the panelists were talking about how we can make space for women, how the climate crisis is actually one of the reasons why education is becoming more inaccessible to women due to like displacement, droughts, and also having to be like forced into like FGMC or early marriages as a result. So talking about how important that is to making like education even possible was something that I've been reflecting on a lot at COP. Just because I feel more like a global citizen now. I think a lot of my issues were Minnesota focused, frankly, and very centric to that. So that was super awesome to like learn about just like what women are experiencing in order to like even get their foot in the table. And then I met Aisha Siddiqa. If you guys know her, she's an amazing Pakistani climate activist, super passionate about education as well. It was just amazing. We were just like, we just passed by her and we were like, wait, is that Aisha Siddiqa? And I was like, yeah. And then on the top, I have the list of plans that the UNESCO has listed as their hopes to get out of this COP. And a lot of the talks were talking about how to make this even possible. And it seems like a lot of countries are committing to doing this, especially emergent countries, as a way of implementing climate change into curriculum and creating future leaders in climate change. Sorry, that was like a lot. Okay, but thank you.
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Danica San, and I'm a senior at the Illinois Math and Science Academy. So in climate, I am an at-large chair in the Climate Reality Chicago chapter. I see a few people from there on here, so shout out to Climate Reality and the Chicago Climate Youth Coalition. I also co-head Fridays for Future Chicago with Tasha, and at my school, I'm co-president of Club Terra, our environmental club. And besides all my climate work, I am also really involved in and really enjoy female empowerment, applied entrepreneurship, and the prom fundraising and planning committee at my school. And of course, I'm an It's Our Future delegate and panelist at COP28. Okay, so starting off, one thing I've been really interested in at COP is just looking at the different technological solutions to the climate crisis. So in the top left corner here is actually really cool. So a few of us got to meet Al Gore and Gavin McCormick, and this was after a presentation they gave on this nonprofit called Climate Trace. And if you look in the middle, there's a little photo there, but Climate Trace, basically the nonprofit, they take satellite images and they use machine learning to analyze those images and gather data from them. And then they use that to calculate the greenhouse gas emissions from different countries around the globe. And the whole idea is that they hold countries accountable this way, because rather than self-reporting, where countries often lie or leave out many emissions, this satellite data provides pretty accurate calculations of how much greenhouse gases those countries actually emit. And so in the photo, Gavin McCormick and Al Gore, they're co-founders of this nonprofit. And in the top right corner, it was just a session that I attended on technology's role in energy storage. And this was one of many that we attended in both the green zone and the blue zone. And it was overall really interesting to see how powerful these technologies are becoming. So how powerful machine learning really is, and how many different ways there are to approach climate solutions. So that was another takeaway as we walked around COP, as we went to all these presentations and booths. It was really interesting learning about how many different fields and just the different unique ways that people were taking climate action using whatever skills or careers they have. And then in the bottom left corner, there are some photos from the climate reality reception. So this was an event that gathered a bunch of climate reality leaders that were at COP. And at it, I met Uli, and also in the middle photo, there's Al Gore again. A fun fact, I shook Al Gore's hand 3 times, 3 days in a row, so that was a lot of fun. And you can go to the next slide. Okay, so here's some cool people we met and also some meetings we were in. So in the top left corner, you see the photo, in the right side of that photo is John Kerry. So he was just zooming by on a golf cart and we saw him. So I pulled out my phone and we snapped a quick selfie. And for those of you who don't know, John Kerry is the former Secretary of State, and he is also the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. So in other words, he's a pretty big deal at climate conferences like this, and he's very involved in the United States negotiations and forming different deals and things like that. Yeah, and in the bottom left corner is a photo of Tasha and I actually today. So today, Tasha and I had 2 meetings. One of them was with Trig Talley. He is the head of the United States delegation to COP28. So he's the lead climate negotiator, and he's really involved, again, just like John Kerry, and making sure these negotiations actually come through. So we had a meeting with him. And then after that, we also had a meeting with some Senate staff. And in both these meetings, it was all youth meeting with Trig and also the Senate staff. So it really was trying to get the youth message out there and making sure the youth demands are heard. And from both of these meetings, they were off the record meetings. It was more just for discussion and learning from these people. And they were pretty insightful, but I would say a lot of the questions we asked them, they did kind of deflect a little and we had to ask a lot of follow-ups. But overall, it was really interesting getting to see the more political, slow-moving, not negotiation specifically, but just the more slow-moving political process was something that we got some insight into. So that was really interesting. And then in the right half of the screen, they're just photos of some people that I met. And in the top right corner, actually, so in October this year, I was a representative at the local conference of youth in the United States. And then we published the National Youth Statement, which actually it plays into the global youth statement, which is read out loud at COP. And the whole idea with these statements is that the officials and climate negotiators are supposed to take these youth statements into account when they're creating these deals. And the youth statements, they generally outline the youth priorities and our primary demands. So at that conference, I met a bunch of really cool people, and I actually ran into a ton of them at COP28. So it was really fun to see them again. I honestly didn't think I'd be seeing them again anytime soon because they came from all over the US. So in the top right corner, that's Simon. He's someone I met at Elcoy, and I saw him again at COP28. And then in the bottom half, so in the middle, there's just a photo of us interviewing a youth activist from the UK, I believe. And in the bottom right corner is us interviewing Prasidi, and Prasidi is really cool. They're 11 years old and have planted 140,000 trees as an 11-year-old. So that was really cool interviewing them. And then next slide. Yeah, so this is my last slide. I just wanted to include some cool things I saw at COP, or not even cool, just like interesting. So on the left, these are called pollution pods. And the whole idea is that the air inside of these little bubbles simulate air in famously dirty cities around the world, such as New Delhi and Beijing. And the whole idea is that you step inside these pods and you experience what people living in those cities feel like. And in the right side is a photo. So it says, when women thrive, humanity thrives. And so for the first time ever, COP28 had a day dedicated to gender, and female empowerment is something that I'm also really passionate about. So it was really nice to see just female voices amplified and given a space and day dedicated to just recognizing the women in the climate movement and the role they play.
Thank you, Danica. Hey, Mayana, before you get started, I noticed that there are some bulldogs here. I just wanted to shout them out. If you want to unmute and cheer for Maya, you can, but not if it's awkward. Okay, go Maya.
Hello everyone. I'm Mayana Nelson and I'm a senior at Riverside Brookfield High School. I'm also part of the It's Our Future youth delegation, and I've been a moderator and panelist here at COP28. I'm also a member of the One Earth Film Festival Youth Advisory Council, and I've created award-winning environmental films for them and for other film festivals across the nation. And then last summer, I had an internship with the Illinois Farm to School Network. And that's kind of what really made me focus here at COP on learning about sustainable food systems and how we can implement them more here. And then outside of environmental work, I'm a cross-country and track and field runner, and I'm involved in other clubs at my school as well. So at COP, I've been focusing a lot on sustainable food systems. So some things that I found that have been really interesting is that here at Expo City, they have a Expo farm, and they're growing. I think they said it was the biggest farm in Dubai, and they're using new technologies to grow stuff because Dubai's in a desert. So they're having to learn how they can adapt. And so the technology that's in the top row in the middle is it takes water out of the atmosphere from human atmospheres, and it can really help water these plants where you might not get as much rain. And then they also had something called biochar, which was kind of like charcoal that they put into the soil that gave nutrients for the plants to help them grow. And then on the top right, it's a hydroponic system, and this is how they are growing food inside. Kind of continuing on with the sustainable food systems, we also had a panel yesterday to talk about how you can get sustainable food systems in schools. So talking about farm to school programs and composting, hydroponics and school gardening. So kind of a bunch of different things that go into having a sustainable food system. And then I've also listened to some panels about it, and got to listen to the first ever chef that presented at COP28 and got to talk to him afterwards, which was pretty cool. So next slide. So kind of going off that part, one of my favorite parts here at COP has been talking to all these different people, and whether it's at lunch and you sit down with these random people. And one guy who we sat with a couple of days ago, he was moderating this high-level panel that had to do with finance in the green zone, and it was a private event, and he was able to get the three of us invites on the top left corner, and we were able to get into this private event and meet a bunch of cool people there. And then today, the two photos on the right are some people I got to meet today who were focusing on climate education. And the one in the top right, he's also a filmmaker, which was pretty cool. And getting to see how where his career has taken him as an environmental filmmaker and potential future for me as well. Next slide, please. And then last night we went to this really cool event at, it was called Axios House, and it was at this luxury hotel, which was really cool. It was looking over the kind of the man-made islands and just the city of Dubai. And it was a really cool event where we got to listen to Al Gore speak, and we also got to listen to the co-founder of LinkedIn and the deputy of the Department of Energy, David Turk. And so that's the picture of David Turk in the middle on the top. And then you can see Al Gore speaking on the right-hand side. And then we also got to interview the guy who actually was interviewing Al Gore and learn about how media plays an important part in climate action. And so this event was a really cool opportunity to network, talk to other people, and really learn more about the impacts of media and government on climate change. So thank you so much. And I'll hand it off to the next person.
Actually, before Avery starts talking, I just want to say we also have folks here from Thornwood High School. So that's awesome. Go Avery.
I'm Avery. I'm a senior at Thornwood. I'm the former president of CETA's Green Generation, and CETA is for the non-Chicagoans, the Community and Economic Development Association. I was a speaker at the Greentown Conference, keynote speaker. I'm an IOF delegate. I was a moderator for one of the panels that we were talking about, the food systems panel. And I was also a panelist for the climate education panel. I am in drama. I am a speechy, and I'm also an amateur painter. So next slide. So the first two paintings on your left are paintings. I did not do them, but they are paintings that are in the top blue zone, which is the area where all the business stuff happens. The one on the left is obviously about female empowerment. The one next to it is about creating a more general sense of unity. And then on the bottom right, we have what we call the Pika protest, because a bunch of people got together in Pikachu costumes and protested fossil fuels' existence in the southernmost part of the world and how it's been affecting them. And there was a similar protest going on in the top right. So if we could just, it's a video, so if we could just play the first like 30 seconds of it. And then could you, yeah. Okay. So these people are protesting the amount of people who have died relating to climate change, and they're right in front of the entrance. So there's many people who are entering the blue zone are seeing them. And then if we could go to the next slide. A lot of the people who are on this call today are more generally focused on climate. I am more focused on the climate justice aspect of it. So I found the protest really fascinating, especially since in Dubai, protests are not strictly legal. So they became planned actions, which meant that people had to contact government and the COP and let them know that this was going to be happening, which makes
Sorry, Avery, I'm getting to it. You tested my technical skills there, so I'm getting back to your slides. No worries.
No, don't worry, man. I'm just, yeah.
You're flying. You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Can't beat it.
All right.
Okay.
Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Great. It's coming. A sec.
So these slides are people who are particularly involved in climate justice. So on the left, we have Dr. Robert Bullard, and he's been called the father of environmental justice. He's written 18 books specifically about how the poor people in America, specifically the Black poor people, have been ignored and mistreated by the government and the big corporations who are polluting that area. And then in the middle, again, we have John Kerry, who was speaking on that same panel as, on the far right, Hillary Clinton, who they were all speaking about the importance of a female presence in the climate justice movement. So at the risk of, to avoid retreading ground, I'm just going to hand it back over to Kate.
Hi, I'm Katie. I'm a senior at Oak Park and River Forest High School. I'm on OPRF's Sustainability Scorecard team. I also work on electoral campaigns for Keena Collins and others. Obviously, I'm an It's Our Future delegate going to COP28, where I've been on 2 panels. Outside of environmental work, I am a cross-country runner, and I have just started getting into science research because I am a huge nerd. So as Avery said, one of the really interesting things at COP has been the protests, which is partially notable because of all of the restrictions placed on them. So here's a couple more that were not touched on before. The one in the top left was a protest for peace and harmony led by students in the green zone. As you can see, they wore all black, including covering their mouths, and several of them spoke or performed poetry. And at the end, they held a red ribbon in the shape of a peace sign, which is what's shown there. The one in the bottom left was a remembrance action, which creatively utilized henna and was really powerful. And the one on the right was a protest calling for countries to contribute to the Loss and Damage Fund, which is basically a way for developed countries to provide necessary funds to nations that are hit hard by climate change in order for them to recover. But right now, there's not nearly enough money in it. So there was a lot of chanting, and it was super high energy. So possibly the best part of COP, in my opinion, so far has been just like talking with people, just like chatting or doing mini interviews with people from all over the world with so many different jobs. Like on this slide alone, we have a psychologist, a farmer, an activist, and a student from the protests, and an Indigenous Grand Chief. So it's really amazing because like everyone is so passionate about what they do and their own like very specific role in fighting climate change. And it also connects with my passion because I'm doing a project right now on the environmental impact of a specific type of oil carried by some pipelines. So shout out to my ERDI class. And on Monday, I watched a panel on Canadian First Nations Climate Action Plan, which was really powerful. And then I actually got to interview Indigenous Grand Chief Judy Wilson after the presentation. That's in the bottom middle there, who told us how her community was like affected by that type of oil pipelines. So it was really a moment of just things coming full circle and like seeing how it's not just words on a page, which is really important. So another interesting thing that we did yesterday was we went and watched some negotiations, which was basically delegates from a bunch of countries debating 6 short paragraphs for over an hour and a half, and they only ended up approving like about half of them. It was really, really tedious, and because it was like such an intense and deliberate discussion about like grammar and very specific word choice, like non-party versus other. But I found myself irrationally invested in the whole process. I'm not sure how the co-facilitator did not like absolutely lose her mind though when the EU was like, excuse me, we didn't discuss paragraph 5 enough. Let's go back. It was really frustrating. But afterwards, we went and talked to the co-facilitator, which was really great. Pemi Nosibusiso Gasela, who's in the photo above. We learned that she was from South Africa and had been at COP for over 10 years, so super experienced with this. She was pretty candid with us and even said it was a bit like a room full of preschoolers learning to share. And we felt that like spending so much time on tiny word choice when climate change is obviously such a big issue can be extremely frustrating. But also on some level, I felt like it was a positive experience because it showed how there are people like Nosibusiso Gasela who have devoted just so much time and energy and patience to go through these small changes, you know, despite the long slog that it may be for the sake of the climate. So I think that's really powerful. And now I'll go ahead and turn it over to Kate.
Hi, my name is Kate Wallace. I'm a senior at OPRF. So I'm an IOF delegate. I'm on 2 of the panels, and then I'm involved in my school. I'm the treasurer of the environmental club and a member of the scorecard team. And then outside of environmental action, I play tennis, and I'm also a member of Model UN. So it's been really exciting to be at the real United Nations after participating in Model UN. So next slide, please. So as you've seen, there are many strategies that come with solving the climate crisis that people are discussing at COP. So this includes health, this includes finance, education, and many others. But I wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience as it comes to energy, which is arguably one of the most important since, you know, electricity powers our world. So one of my favorite experiences at COP was meeting Deputy Secretary of the Department of Energy, David Turk. So that is the second highest position in the Department of Energy. And we got to sit down with him for about 30 minutes to ask questions and share our thoughts and concerns. So we learned a lot about what the Department of Energy is currently doing. And it was really exciting to talk with someone of that status. And then also, you know, energy was a huge goal and conversation at COP. So in the bottom right corner, you can see the energy transition building in the green zone, which was really a platform for a lot of corporations and industry workers to discuss renewable energy. I talked to some nuclear engineers from Canada for a while and learned about their work, which was exciting. And in the top right, you can see a picture from a panel we attended about improving energy efficiency. So on the next slide, also in that energy transition building was a pavilion for DEWA, which is the Dubai Electricity and Water Authority. And we got to see Guinness, a representative from the Guinness Book of World Records, present them with a Guinness World Record for tallest solar tower. So that was very exciting. We got to take a picture with the Guinness World Record representative. And then today, I actually got to visit the solar tower, which is the tallest solar tower in the world, and it's located in the largest solar park in the world, which was very exciting. That complex currently powers 15% of Dubai, and by 2030, it is set to power 25%. So that was very cool to see. So, you know, to echo what my peers have said, the experience as youth here at COP has really been incredible. The architecture is surreal. The atmosphere is really great, and the people we've met have really been incredible. I've loved the openness and, you know, meeting people at lunch, everyone saying hello. I found that everyone's very eager to meet with us and share their stories. So there are parts of COP that have their drawbacks. Katie mentioned the tediousness of the actual negotiations, and Tasha mentioned the frustration in the push to phase out fossil fuels. But I think overall, it has really been a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and I've been really grateful for this experience. And I also can't wait to see what the rest of the week has in store.
Well, thank you all so much. That was fantastic. Everybody did a great job. I wanted to just mention that It's Our Future Youth got to meet with Sabrina and Yvonne in the green zone. They had lunch together, and it seemed like a really natural, great time for everybody. And they all worked on putting this presentation together. So phenomenal work. And also any 8th to 12th graders in the Chicago area are super encouraged to join It's Our Future. And I just wanted to shout out Maya Ebels-Duggan, who was part of our delegation last year and is on the call tonight. That's so sweet. Thank you for being here, Maya. We do have a couple of questions. Actually, some were submitted in advance. Alex Zielinski from OPRF asks, what are the best ways, in your opinion, that ordinary citizens like me can help mitigate the climate crisis? And I suppose you could kind of raise your Zoom hand or just jump in on this one. Kate, you're on the screen right now if you feel like you could take it. And we could probably have a few people answer this one.
So can you repeat the question? Was it like, what's the best thing for ordinary people to do, like to kind of get involved?
Uh-huh.
Well, I think a big thing is just getting involved locally. We've had a lot of discussions about small actions because it really does take a village. Like everyone needs to participate and to get involved. So there's a lot of small things you can do, either with policy or, you know, changing your behaviors and helping to
Okay, my computer froze for a second, but it looks like Kate is done, and I'm sure she was brilliant. Thanks. Oh, lost the sound, says Brooks Middle School. I don't know what just happened. Kate, can you talk for a second and maybe say your last sentence again for us?
Yeah, I think my computer might have frozen, but I was just really saying, I think a first step to getting involved is just locally, you know, small actions create a big difference. So
perfect.
I also want to add to that, if that's okay.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yep.
Yeah, I totally second what Kate was saying, and honestly, I've learned overall at this COP because one of the members of our delegation, actually, her name is Abby Artsell. Her sister, Lily Hartzell, is a part of the U.S. negotiation team, and we were able to meet with her and really get an inside view of what it's like to be a U.S. negotiator. And she told us that like over 190 countries basically have to come to a consensus of, you know, what climate goal they're trying to attack for this COP. And you have to consider that one, it takes a long time for each country to meet and agree to such things like that. It also takes a long time for an actual amount to be implemented in a bill or, you know, whatever mandated law that they have per country. I also want to say that like it's almost just as important, if not more important, to be able to elect officials that are within the same mindset as yourself, because a lot of times, specifically in countries like the US, it's difficult to find you know, people that actually will vote for what you're trying to promote and within your own country. So I think that's very important to consider.
Thank you, Yvonne. Great answers. Does anybody else have an answer that they need to say to this one? Because it is kind of the kernel. It's the call to action opportunity. So if your concept wasn't stated by Kate or Yvonne, jump in there.
Yeah. So I would say that while both of those things are important, I think that a lot of youth are disenchanted with the governmental system. And when we were talking to David Turk, he mentioned that a lot of youth don't feel any faith in the government. And so it's important to vote. What I would also say, though, is if you're disenchanted with the government, then the most effective thing you can do is to educate yourself, because I didn't know a lot of the stuff that I know now coming in here. Like, I didn't even know that, and this seems to be common knowledge among the climate education people, but I didn't know that carbon capture was a non-starter as a solution. But, you know, you learn. And then the other thing is activism, or like I said on a panel, find something to talk about, find a group of people who will talk about it, and then don't shut up until something changes. So that is the best way, I think, to get your government to move quickly and to move in the way that you want, is to be consistent and to be activists.
I love that. Thank you, Avery. And you know, this group does sound and are climate experts at this stage of the game, but they are all learning continuously, right? And so wherever you're at, it's the perfect place to start, right? So I like what you're saying about jumping in. Anybody else want to do that one, or it is 9:58? I could do another question quickly, which is Sophia asked, what has been the most optimistic thing you have heard or seen at COP so far? Any thoughts on that? The most optimistic thing.
I can jump in. I would say just in general, seeing all of the people who are also fighting for the same cause as you from across the world. So it's not just us in our small group, and that there's so many people who are here to support you. And again, we had our panel on mental health in the face of the climate crisis, and we discussed the importance of having that support system and all the people who can validate your feelings of this stress and this need and urgency for change. And I think that it's really important to see all of these people who are also fighting for this change at a global scale. And while it can be discouraging to see the slowness of this process, it's also really encouraging just to have these one-on-one conversations and to see what other countries are doing and how they're hoping to bring this in to COP and to get their voices heard at this level.
Thank you, Maya. It is 9:59. Kristen, do you mind popping the IOF slide back up there real quickly since it has the QR code? Sadhana asked me to introduce myself again. I'm the program manager for It's Our Future, so it's my privilege to work with these brilliant and delightful, really delightful humans. My background's in education and environmental education, and I love this job. And whether if you're in 8th to 12th grade and live in the Chicago area, follow at IOF Youth, and you will find a link to join us in the link tree. It's not a huge commitment, and it's a very positive experience. Thank you all so much. This is a wonderful turnout. Really appreciate the participation, the engagement, and thank you so much to all of our youth panelists for sharing your stories. And thank you, Climate Generation, for hosting and doing all the tech work. And I appreciate you all so very much.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. We'll follow up with the recording of this as well to everyone that registered and links that were shared because there was lots of great information. So go to bed, all y'all in Dubai, and take care, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.